Thank you for joining us for this special edition of CBS 8, celebrating Black history while connecting our past with our present with a nod to the future. I'm your host, Kirsten Holmes, and we are going to dive right in. Floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. Back in 1973, Muhammad Ali made his way right here to San Diego for a major fight, but you know he left an everlasting impact. Marcus Greaves has the story.
Cassius Clay, or better known as Muhammad Ali, made a tremendous impact in a number of people's lives, not just in sports, but in social justice. It seemed like anywhere he went, he left an everlasting impact with not only his ability in the ring, but his charisma outside of it.
That's where most fellas get hurt. Cornering me. And see, then even if I don't run, I'll just stay there and whip him. We're in the corner. We both trading. Seems gonna be taking it. I'm not gonna stand there and get in the corner just because I'm in the corner to do that. I get in the corner, I get scared, and I start cooking. Coming out of that corner. That's where Frazier got messed up, following me all night, taking all that whooping.
The three-time heavyweight champion made his way to San Diego back in 1973 to face off against Ken Norton. At the time, Ali held a record of 41 wins and just one loss.
Muhammad, welcome back to San Diego.
Glad to be here. So much noise out here, you know.
How do you feel physically?
Oh, I'm in good shape. You know, I'm fighting every 2 months, so it's going to take a heck of a man to whip me now. I'm back like I used to be.
As we all know, Ali didn't lack confidence in his abilities.
Oh, I'm ready. I can go. Don't get me wrong now. I'm not going to lose. I'm not even worried about it. So I'm active. This will be my 13th fight since Joe Frazier, you must remember. My 13th fight. I'm fighting every month or two. See, and after this fight, I think we got one in Indonesia 4 weeks later. And then 4 weeks after that, we got one in Hong Kong. And 5 weeks after that, we might be back in Vegas. See, that's if Foreman don't do nothing. I got about $2 more million lined up in fights.
This event had a sold-out crowd at the San Diego Sports Arena with over 11,000 in attendance. What made this fight even more significant is that this was the only time Ali fought in San Diego.
Weighing in at 221 pounds, the people's choice, Muhammad Ali.
The fight between Norton and Ali ended in a split decision, with Norton walking away victorious and handing Ali just his second loss.
Ali's bravado aside, the match belongs to Norton. After being hypnotized by Dean, he fights perhaps the best fight of his career, seems confident and conditioned, and breaks Ali's jaw en route to a split decision.
Now, this fight accumulated a massive crowd and gave many the experience of a lifetime. But a naval officer wanted to protest this event because she highlighted the fact Ali refused to fight in the Vietnam War. Ali spoke out on why he made that decision.
Her husband died in Vietnam fighting to free strangers, fighting for the people in the South to have a freedom to vote and do and worship as they want over the North. Well, if her husband died fighting to free these people who didn't serve America for 400 years, who didn't die in America's Japanese War, Korean War, German War like the American black man, if he was fighting to free people who never got castrated, lynched, raped for 400 years, if he's fighting to free people who didn't work 316 years without a payday to make America fifth richest state on the planet, and they not no kinship to America. Now he fought to free these people, and at the same time she backed that. But now I'm the 400-year-old black slave who caught hell, mother and father worked here, fought in all the wars, built the damn country, been raped, tore up, killed, and lynched and burned. It's the same woman who is not standing up for me, for my religion, and for my belief. You understand?
Aside from the fight, Ali also spoke out at Logan Heights Park about the injustice that African Americans faced in the United States. I had the chance to sit down with former Channel 8 photographer Carl Gilman, who went to cover this event and was confronted by a mob on arrival. He explained to me how Ali came to his aid.
Don't y'all push the cameraman, back up.
When Muhammad Ali found out what was going on, he came to our aid immediately. And it was, it all happened pretty fast, but at one point I always remember where the crowd is really on us and we've been hit a few times, and Muhammad Ali comes up and he puts his arms around both of us and he said, These men are here to interview me. Leave them alone. And then we were able to conduct an interview and do what we came there to do, only because Muhammad Ali kept them under control. He really saved us from serious injury. When we got back to the car, a group surrounded the car, and they became very angry. I guess, I'm not sure why, but they broke off the antennas on the car, and they were kicking windows, and they smashed the windshield. And so we had a hard time, and we were getting jostled around. Got in the car, and Muhammad Ali and Archie Moore got in front of the car and made a path to make sure we got our way out of there. So, I mean, they saved us in a number of ways, because at that point we could have been kind of trapped and been in some trouble.
Thank you for protecting us here.
All right, you're welcome. Everything's all right.
In the end, Muhammad Ali came to San Diego and again left an everlasting impact on thousands of people's lives in the ring and outside of it, and showed exactly why he was considered the people's champ. From CBS 8,
Yeah, let's start cooking.
I'm Marcus Greaves.
Coming out of that corner.
Coming up, our cameras were rolling when another one of the greats sat down with CBS 8. We'll bring you the man who broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball, Jackie Robinson. That's coming up after the break.
Not only Black History Month, but all of the other cultural observance is an opportunity to show the diversity within our nation and to remind people that this nation was built on this diversity. So no one racial or ethnic group is responsible for our great nation.
Okay, so how much do you know about Jackie Robinson? There is a Jackie Robinson YMCA right here in San Diego, and it is the only one not named after a local family. CBS 8 was there with Jackie Robinson in the 60s at the height of the civil rights struggle. And I also caught up with an old friend whose Robinson's legacy changed his life forever, he says. Here's the story.
It's a calculated campaign against minorities. We think that it's anti-Catholic, anti-Jewish, anti-Negro.
This is Jackie Robinson talking to CBS 8 back in 1964.
Negroes were beginning to understand that as long as they were under the influence of a particular party, that they would still get the short end of the stick.
Probably not the baseball-wielding sports icon you grew up reading about, huh? But Robinson's legacy is so wide-reaching that almost 40 years later, Kenneth Patterson II from Little Rock, Arkansas, would benefit from a scholarship foundation that changed his entire life for the better, and it was all by accident.
Honestly, I didn't know anything about it.
Kenneth, or KP as we called him growing up, applied for some other scholarship and just happened to win the Jackie Robinson Foundation Scholarship Award. He went on to become a board member for the foundation because he says it's not often that the group helping to pay for an education also gives hands-on supplemental life tools to prepare their students for success.
Whether that's learning how to be better at time management, whether that's learning how to balance a spreadsheet, whatever it is, in addition to the education that they're helping you get.
Like Robinson, KP is an avid golfer in a sport that's also still predominantly white.
Jackie might not have been the best African-American baseball player at that time, but he was what was needed because he was the one that was going to do his work, do his job, show up, represent, and then also kind of ignore all of the noise. Everywhere I go, I feel the need to represent his legacy because of what he and his wife, Rachel, have provided me.
And we talk about the gifts of time, treasures, and talents, but when you really study the life of Jackie Robinson like I have since being there for 22 years, I've learned a lot more about Jackie.
Michael Brunker was the executive director for the Jackie Robinson YMCA in San Diego.
Spiritually grounded, he was a family man. Not only was he the first black man to play Major League Baseball, but he also served in the military. Baseball might have been the worst of the four sports that he played. He ran track and field, he played football, basketball, and by the way, he played baseball too.
Brunker says Robinson's legacy and life of service was an inspiration to those who inspire.
Dr. King once said that because of Jackie Robinson, it made his work easy. And we know there wasn't anything that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did that was easy.
You don't measure it by how much progress has been made, in my view. I think we have to look at how much further we have to go.
CBS 8 interviewed Robinson in 1968 at the height of the civil rights struggle. His words from more than 50 years ago still resonate today. Take a listen.
Don't you think that there are being given opportunities for black people and other minorities in jobs and employment and in education that is unprecedented from comparison with the past?
Yes, but you still must take a look at the overall picture. 5-6 years ago, we were making 58% of what white Americans were making. Today, we're making about 53%. While there is this kind of progress, I don't think that people recognize that the country has made fantastic progress as well, and the Negro has not made proportionate progress as far as jobs, as far as activities, as far as earning a livelihood is concerned.
And when it comes to athletes using their platform for social justice issues?
Isn't the Negro athlete, however, in the most privileged position virtually of all Negroes, along with Negro entertainers?
So it behooves him to get involved in the struggle so that those who are not athletes, those who are struggling, it's his responsibility to be involved. Those who have been successful, those who have been fortunate, it is a responsibility to get involved to help ensure the rights. So when his child comes up and may not have athletic ability, or his friend's child who may not have this kind of ability can go as far as he would like to go in some other field.
Coming up, we take a look into the future of what could be a historic physical celebration of black culture right in San Diego's Encanto neighborhood.
Every year when I look at Black history, I'm always trying to see and think about what currently are we doing. Let's let Black History Month be Black History Year.
A campaign to designate part of San Diego's Encanto neighborhood to honor the contributions of African Americans is gaining a lot of steam. Activists have been pushing the city to get this official designation since last fall. CBS 8's LaMonica Peters talked to the people spearheading this campaign and to the city council member who says she supports the idea.
Encanto was a thriving hub for African Americans in San Diego for many years. Now some in the community want to ensure that the art and culture they created here isn't forgotten.
Gentrification is happening in a major way. A lot of people are moving out, but the culture is staying because the art is still there.
As the neighborhood continues to grow and change, it's the art and culture of Encanto that have remained the same. For decades, it was home for many African American families in Southeast San Diego. Today, 17% of the neighborhood's residents identify as Black.
Back in the early 1900s, 1940s, 50s, many Black families settled in the Encanto area for the first time. A lot of first-time homeowners and first-time business owners. And so this area has a great history for us in the community.
Imperial Barbershop has been a part of the Encanto community since 2006. Also known as the most conscious barbershop, owner Tau Baraka says the shop pays homage to those who've advocated for the people who live there.
The barbershop itself is an arts piece. If you see, I mean, these are a lot of the people that do work in our community. These are all activists that I selected to put up here.
As an artist and president of the Southeast Art Team, Kim Phillips P. says she supports designating nearly a mile of Imperial Avenue from 61st to 68th Streets as the Encanto Arts District. Right now, San Diego has 2 state-designated cultural areas, Balboa Park and Barrio Logan. Last year, the city also designated a Pan-Asian Cultural Business Innovation District in Kearney Mesa.
What we hope is that the city will partner with us and provide funding, so that we can build the area up to be just like other cultural districts that you see.
If the designation is granted, Phillips P. says the area can receive funding to improve storefronts, enhance landscaping, support small Black-owned businesses, and added signage. Ultimately, the goal is to give the Black community a sense of identity in San Diego.
When we are here in San Diego, when tourists come to San Diego, when our children are growing up here, we want something to be able to call home and be familiar with.
Encanto is represented by San Diego City Council member Monica Montgomery Stepp, who said, "The Black community has contributed significantly throughout San Diego's history, and I believe these contributions deserve recognition and celebration. I strongly support the Black Arts and Culture District because it highlights those contributions, and I have included the funding of this district in my budget priorities for fiscal year 22-23. I look forward to continuing the work with the community partners on this project to ensure this vision comes to fruition." San Diego native and CEO of Urban Warriors, DeHaan Blevins, says the Encanto Arts District will become more than a tourist attraction, but also serve as a catalyst for personal growth in the community.
The goal of this is to use arts, culture, and entertainment to create a captive audience that can be educated on health, nutrition, fitness, mental health, and overall wellness, raising the quality of life.
Blevins says the community used to hold a festival every summer, and bands like Lakeside got their start playing in the neighborhood. He says the city's designation will help them get back to that, and they can create a space for the next generation. LaMonica Peters, CBS 8.
Still ahead on CBS 8's Black History Month special, connecting our past to our bright future. We'll tell you about plans for a new civil rights museum celebrating San Diego's rich Black history right after this break. San Diego's role in the civil rights movement may not be widely known, but there is a community college theater in Mountain View that's hoping to change that. They've hosted legends in the fight for civil rights like Coretta Scott King, and they want to make plans to turn that legacy into a museum for the future. CBS 8's Heather Hope has their plan.
We're inside the Educational Cultural Complex Theater, and if this stage could talk, oh, the stories it would tell. And the most important story is this theater's role in San Diego's cultural history. Nestled in Mountain View on Ocean View Boulevard, the San Diego Community College District's College of Continuing Education was once a hub for civil rights activism in the 1970s.
I didn't know to the extent of the history of this institution. I grew up 2 blocks down the road. Definitely upgrade the technology in the theater as well.
Andre Lucas, Dean of Career Tech at the Educational Cultural Complex, can't wait for major renovations to take place at the college's theater, which hosted Black legends in the civil rights movement.
There should be a holiday for Black Americans.
Coretta Scott King, they held a convention here where she spoke to the community. We've also had individuals such as Jesse Jackson, Muhammad Ali grace these halls, and that's something that we want to preserve.
Preservation will start with much-needed upgrades to the theater.
We definitely want to make this more ADA compliant.
A $35 million state grant will add new seating, lights, and new technology to best host San Diego events.
There just isn't a venue south of the 8 to host some of the events that you would see above the 8 freeway.
Just being inside the historical building.
This place brings a lot of wonderful memories.
Actress and historian Elise Smith Cooper performed on the ECC stage alongside Whoopi Goldberg and James Avery in 1976. She lives down the street from the theater and is now writing a book about the history of the Educational Cultural Complex.
And the Educational Cultural Complex was the mind child of the African American people in this community. Stevie Wonder came. He played in this very orchestra pit.
As the ECC Theater soon will be under construction, directly in a space in front of it,
So this is going to be the future side of our community room here at the Educational Cultural Complex.
The community room in the current arts and crafts classroom will be home to San Diego's first civil rights museum.
First, to encapsulate the past and build on that for the future.
We decided to make it the living leaders.
Poet Leah Goodwin has already designed a civil rights exhibit in the halls of the ECC.
Most of these people inspired me, lifted me up, pushed me forward, told me their stories. This idea with the gallery and the exhibit here would be that we actually have the civil rights story with the lens of ECC.
Making the Civil Rights Museum a reality will take time and money. The interim president says the museum price tag is $10 million.
We anticipate that will allow us to really build out the space, make it a very attractive space, give us the flexibility to have both displays and meeting rooms.
Creating a museum to celebrate and chronicle San Diego's activism alongside a historic theater is a dream come true for Elise Smith Cooper.
I'm stuttering saying it because it kind of brings hot water to my eyes. I mean, who would have thought?
And the construction timeline is fluid, but the theater renovation is expected to be completed by year 2024 and the Civil Rights Museum by year 2025. Heather Hope, CBS 8.
Head to CBS8.com for a closer look at the stories we just shared with you for this half hour. I'm your host, Kirsten Holmes. Thank you for joining us for CBS 8's Black History Month special. We'll see you next time.